These aren't just stories of mistakes. These are confessions that people never wanted to voice out loud. Welcome to a world where failure is frighteningly honest and the consequences are all too real. Tifu at work. While dealing with Crohn's and my own stupidity, I thought I was just going to the bathroom. I didn't know I was walking into a complete breakdown of reality. See, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease not long ago, which means my digestive system operates like it's trying to speedrun hell mode. Flare-ups hit out of nowhere. They're messy, painful, and sometimes feel like being stabbed from the inside. Combine that with working in an actual office twice a week. Yeah, you can imagine. Last week I felt the rumble mid-morning. It was the kind of stomach noise that says, you've got about 45 seconds to find a toilet or make peace with God. I made it to the bathroom just in time. A big handicap stall. The kind with enough space to pace in existential dread. Which I did as the storm raged on. But this isn't a story about Crohn's, not entirely, it's about my earbuds. 2 years ago, I bought some fancy Samsung earbuds. They never fit right, always slipped, so I shoved them in a drawer. Later, my parents got me a cheap brand that felt perfect. I used those instead, until one day, they vanished. Our cat probably sacrificed them to whatever feline deity lives in the attic. So now, I'm back to the old earbuds. Annoying, loose, always slipping, but better than nothing. Or so I thought. Back in the stall, disaster began. I stood up, finished wiping, turned slightly, and the right earbud fell out. I didn't see it. I felt it go. Then I heard it. Ploop. Right into the toilet. Into that toilet. I turned slowly, like in a horror movie, and saw it. Floating. Not just in the water. Not just next to the mess. Number. It was on top of the horror. Like some smug little passenger on a raft of shame. A twisted plastic iceberg on the Titanic of my dignity. I froze. What now? Do I grab it? Flush? Call a priest? Then, things got worse. My glasses, already slipping from the humidity, fell off. They hit the porcelain edge, bounced, and landed on the floor. I bent forward instinctively and... crunch. My foot came down on the left lens, just obliterated it. So now I'm half blind, pants around my ankles, one earbud lost to a floating war crime, and my glasses are shards. I leaned down to salvage what was left. Ploop! The second earbud joined its brother. I wanted to scream. Burn the office down. Move to another country. Instead, I stood there, defeated. Jeans still bunched at my ankles. No earbuds, no vision, no hope. Eventually, I flushed that cursed toilet. It didn't just take my earbuds, it took a piece of my soul. I pulled up my pants, tried not to make eye contact with myself in the mirror, and left the building like a man who just returned from war. Fast forward to yesterday, I finally got new earbuds. Same model, same shape. I put them in. They still felt uncomfortable. I grumbled to my wife. She stared at me for half a second. You know you're wearing them upside down, right? I blinked. What? You've been wearing them wrong the entire time. And that was the final nail. All this time. Every time they fell out. Every time I cursed them, adjusted them, stuffed them in my ears again. They were upside down. I'm 52. I've survived Crohn's corporate life, 1,000 other indignities, but this one broke me. Tifu by fumbling a beautiful girl who became ridiculously famous. 2 summers ago, I was 18, fresh out of high school, and working a job at the only place in my city that came alive for 10 days a year. An amusement park. Our city? Boring. Dead quiet. But when this park opened every July, every single teenager came crawling out of their houses like moths to a flame. It was loud, chaotic, and the most social we ever got. That night, I had just finished my shift at a Philly cheesesteak stand and met up with some friends to wander around. Music thumping, neon lights flashing, crowds everywhere. And that's when I saw her, or maybe felt her before I even laid eyes on her. There she was. Sonia. I won't go into details, but imagine someone so stunning, so unreal that everything around her seemed to fade. My friends noticed too, and since I was the only single guy in the group, They immediately started pushing me toward her like I was the chosen one. A dare. A challenge. Normally, girls don't make me nervous. I'm decent at holding conversations, even used to girls making the first move. But this wasn't normal. This was something else. Every step I took toward her made my pulse spike. My confidence cracked. Then I spotted something, a mutual connection. Sonia was standing next to a girl I knew through some friends. I pulled her aside and told her to pass Sonia a message. A minute later, she came back and said, "She wants to talk to you." My heart stopped. I approached, extended my hand, and Sonia smiled and shook it. We started talking. She was cool, chill, and somehow even more beautiful up close. We found out we'd be going to the same university that fall. Before we left, we exchanged contacts, and I walked away like I just touched the sun and survived. Later that night, I told my brother what happened. Just casually dropped her name. He lost it. Turns out Sonia was a TikToker. Not just any TikToker. She had 300,000 followers. One of his biggest internet crushes. And somehow, I'd just gotten her number. I wasn't really into TikTok the way most people were. My feed was mostly gym clips and dumb skits. Nothing too deep. So when my brother told me Sonia was internet famous, I just shrugged. Honestly, it made sense. Weirdly enough, I had posted a few thirst traps myself. Nothing crazy, but they got some traction. Enough that Sonia and I ended up talking about it. It gave us something to laugh about. And when fall rolled around, we started hanging out more. Study sessions in the library, late night chats, the usual. But that's when things started to shift. Sonia was loud. Not in a bad way, just out there. She could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. Everyone knew her. Everyone liked her. And I didn't. I don't mean I disliked her. I mean I wasn't like her. I liked quiet. I liked mystery. The kind of connection you build slowly in quiet corners. Not by jumping into conversations with a dozen people at once just to keep up. Eventually I started pulling away. Not intentionally at first. I just got tired. Our conversations slowed. Hangouts faded. And before I knew it, she was just someone I used to know. Then one day, out of nowhere, she dropped her first YouTube video. It blew up. She posted again and again. Within weeks, she had 1 million subscribers. Her TikTok went from 300,000 to 10 million in under a year. Every scroll, every click, she was there. On my screen, on my feed, everywhere. That summer, I visited family in another city. My little cousin saw Sonia, followed me on TikTok, and lost her mind. She begged me to call her. Just one FaceTime, just to say hi. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because deep down, I felt like if I reached out now after all that time, after she'd made it, I just looked like another guy trying to ride the wave. Another name popping back up now that she was famous. And even though we weren't right for each other, part of me still wondered, what if I'd stayed? What if I'd tried harder? What if I hadn't let her drift away? Would I still be in this dead-end job? Would I still be stuck wondering what could have been? I guess I'll never know. Tifu by not bringing my passport to check in at a hotel. It happened back in December, but I'm only sharing it now. As a warning. Because what started as a harmless mistake in a foreign country quickly spiraled into a stressful, borderline nightmarish experience. It was my first solo trip overseas. I was part of a study abroad program at my university's satellite campus in Italy. Every weekend, students would scatter across the country. Short trips, fast trains, easy access. That weekend, my friend and I decided on Venice. Just before leaving, as we stood in the dorm lobby, she asked, "You've got your passport, right?" I shrugged. "Nah, just a photo of it. We're only staying one night. Safer to keep the real one locked up. Less chance of it getting stolen." I wasn't worried. I'd used passport photos to check into places before. Even had a live photo for proof. I thought I was being cautious, smart even. When we arrived in Venice, we headed to our hostel. The receptionist asked for our passports. My friend handed hers over. Then it was my turn. I showed him the photo on my phone. His smile faded. "I can't check you in without a physical passport." I stood there, stunned. I explained, pointed to the photo, reassured him it was real. He sighed and said, "Don't panic. It happens. Just go across the canal, get a declaration from the police saying it's lost, and I'll let you check in." I left my friend behind and crossed the city alone. The police gave me a printed declaration. An hour later, I was back, exhausted, embarrassed, but finally checked in. Before I left the station, the officer warned me, "You must go to your local police station as soon as you return. Show them your physical passport to unblock it. Do not delay." I didn't. First thing the next day, I went to the station. They took my documents, nodded, printed a letter confirming the passport had been cleared. It was over. But here's the thing, I almost got stranded in a foreign city over a single decision because I thought a photo was good enough. It wasn't. Everything was fine until I left the Schengen zone to visit the UK for New Year's Eve. At the Channel crossing, I handed my passport over without a second thought. The border agent's expression shifted instantly. "This passport is flagged in the system as stolen." I blinked, confused. "What?" "No, it's mine. I just came from Italy." The police said everything was cleared. The officer gave me a tight, skeptical look. "You're traveling with an illegal passport. You're lucky I'm not confiscating it right now. Go to the Australian embassy in London. Immediately?" My heart was racing. I hadn't done anything wrong, but suddenly I was carrying something that could get me detained at any European border. And the worst part, I didn't even know why. At the embassy, I was hopeful. An official looked over my documents and shook his head. "On our system, your passport is perfectly valid. Nothing wrong with it." Relief washed over me for a moment. I assumed the border officer had made a mistake, or their system had just glitched out. I thought, well, that's that. But it wasn't. When I returned to the Schengen zone a week later, it all happened again. This time, the border guards were furious. "Your passport is still marked as stolen. Technically, we're supposed to confiscate it and detain you." I tried to explain. The embassy said it was fine. The Australian system said it was fine. They didn't care. "The embassy's system is not our system," they told me. "We'll let you through this time, but next time you won't be so lucky. Fix this, or you'll be arrested and your passport will be taken." I was traveling alone in a foreign country, and I had just been told, again, that my legal passport could land me in jail. When I got to Paris, I went straight to the Australian consulate. Sat across from an officer who looked stunned as I explained everything. "They never should have touched your passport," he said. "It wasn't lost. It was never stolen. What the Italian police did was illegal." He handed me his business card and a sheet with consulate emergency numbers. "If they try to stop you again," he said, "tell them to call us." The rest of my trip passed without incident. No more border crossings, no more threats. But I know that flag is still there, buried in some European database. Silent, waiting, all of this. Because I didn't bring my physical passport for a one-night stay in Venice. Lesson learned. Bureaucracy is unforgiving, and it doesn't care about your intentions. Always carry your passport. Every time, everywhere. Or you may find yourself holding the one thing that could get you trapped in a system you can't explain your way out of. Tifu by ruining a 3-year friendship over my insecurities. When I moved in with my best friend last August, I thought it was the start of a new, exciting chapter. We had been inseparable for nearly 4 years. Ever since bonding over music and a random high school class. She was my person, my safe place, the one I could always count on. I didn't have many other friends, but that never mattered. As long as we had each other, I felt okay. Whenever we went out, it was always with her friends, not mine. I was used to being the quiet one in the corner, the background character in someone else's social circle. They never really acknowledged me, never made an effort. But I didn't care. Because once we got in the car, it would just be the two of us again, laughing like nothing else existed. Their silence didn't matter, her attention did. Moving in together was her idea. I hesitated at first. Everyone warns you not to live with your best friend. But she was so excited, and saying no to her, that was never easy. So, I agreed. We shared the house with 2 other girls our age, and for a while everything felt fine. Until it didn't. Just before classes started, she dropped a bombshell. She and our other friend, the only other person I'd been close to, were rushing a sorority. Out of nowhere. No warning, no conversation. Just a sudden decision that felt like it had been made long before I ever heard about it. It might not sound like a big deal, but it hit me hard. She'd always said she hated sororities, that it wasn't her thing. And now she was diving in headfirst with someone else by her side, like they had rewritten the script and left me out of it. I kept telling myself she didn't owe me an explanation. She had the right to make her own choices. But that didn't stop the sting. That sharp, quiet feeling of being forgotten. They started going out all the time, dressing up, laughing together, taking pictures. A new world I wasn't invited into. And slowly, they stopped asking me to come. Stopped even mentioning when they were heading out. I'd see it all later on social media. The nights I never knew about. The people I'd never meet. I stopped checking after a while. It hurt too much. I've always struggled with how I look. I'm on the heavier side, and my self-image has been complicated, to say the least. I'd bring it up sometimes. The way I felt standing next to them, how invisible I felt. And they'd laugh. Brush it off. It's not real, they'd say. You're just overthinking. But I wasn't. I could feel the difference. In how people looked at us. In how they looked through me. Then one night, everything cracked open. My two other roommates, the girls I barely knew when we moved in, started venting about her. Nothing cruel, just honest. And for the first time, I let myself speak. I didn't trash her. I didn't dig into our history. I just mentioned some of her habits as a roommate. I even defended her, saying that's just how she was raised. But once the words were out, I felt this strange mix of guilt and relief. And somehow, in that late-night conversation, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time. Support. Real support. The kind where you don't feel like a burden for being vulnerable. I opened up about everything. The distance, the loneliness, the way it felt watching my best friend build a new life without me. They listened, they understood. And we stayed up until sunrise just talking and laughing and healing. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. Then something shifted. My best friend, the one I shared everything with, began to disappear. Not physically, but emotionally. She would retreat to her room, close the door, and barely come out unless it was to grab something to eat. Every night, I'd knock softly and ask how her day was, just hoping for some connection. Anything. But all I got were cold, clipped responses. One word. Sometimes just a nod. At first, I told myself she was just tired, maybe overwhelmed. But the silence kept growing heavier, and eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I knocked again, asked what was going on, and this time, she didn't shut me out. She exploded. She told me she was hurt, that she felt betrayed, that the closeness I had with our other roommates made her feel excluded, like we'd replaced her. She said they didn't even like her, that I had joined in on the jokes behind her back. I tried to explain, to tell her that wasn't true, that I wasn't replacing her, that I was just trying to survive the silence. And then she brought up the TikTok. Weeks ago, I had made a dumb, harmless video with the other girls. It was a trend I didn't even fully understand. I barely use the app. I don't keep up with that stuff. I thought it was funny, stupid, lighthearted, but she didn't. She said it doxed her, exposed her in a way that crossed a line. I was shocked. That was never my intention. I apologized right away. Sincerely. I told her I hadn't thought it through, and I took the video down immediately after our fight. But the damage was already done. Since that night, she hasn't looked me in the eye. Not once. It's been 3 weeks now, and I haven't seen her face. My other roommates, but the same ones who stayed up talking with me, who comforted me when I was feeling broken, they stopped talking to me too. I never got into another argument with them, never said anything cruel. But the next morning after the fight, they were just gone. Not physically, but emotionally like her. Now the silence isn't just coming from behind one door. It's everywhere. I keep trying. I leave her little notes on her door. I bought her a birthday gift, even though she wouldn't open the door to receive it. Every time I hear the front door open, I peek out, hoping to catch a glimpse. Just to say hi. Just to remind her I still care. But she walks right past. I know I messed up. I know I hurt her. And maybe I should have known better. Maybe I should have seen what the TikTok meant. Maybe I should have knocked harder. Talked sooner. But now it feels like it's too late. We had so many memories. So many nights filled with laughter and whispered secrets and dumb inside jokes. I miss her. I miss what we had. And I'm terrified that my insecurities, my fear, my silence, destroyed something beautiful. I want her back. I don't want to lose this friendship over a mistake I never meant to make. But I don't know what else to do. Tifu by taking an edible for the first time. Today, I made a mistake I'll probably never forget. Imagine this, you're 19 years old. You've been living with chronic back pain for nearly 4 years. It eats at your focus, your sleep, your ability to function like a normal person. Every day is just a cycle of studying, hurting, and quietly falling apart. And eventually, you hit a wall. You're not thinking about doing something drastic. Not exactly, but your thoughts have gotten darker. So instead of going off the deep end, you do something a little less destructive. Something you never thought you would do. You decide to try cannabis. You're the kind of person who always follows the rules. You've never smoked, never vaped, never even touched alcohol. You're the straight-laced friend in every group chat. But the pain has changed you. And tonight you decide that maybe, just maybe, breaking one rule could bring some relief. So you ask your friend, someone with experience, to help you out. She agrees. You let her pick the gummies. 2 types, 1 pack of 10 gummies, 20 milligrams each. Another with 20 gummies, 10 milligrams each. Both blue raz, both nearly identical. You trust her. You trust the plan. You take half a gummy. Your friend tells you to set a timer. 45 minutes, no problem. You press start. 3 minutes in, you start to feel off. Not bad, just different. A little light in the head, a bit giggly, but it's way too early for it to be real, right? You tell yourself it's just your imagination. You don't want to sound dramatic, so you don't say anything. 11 minutes, you can't keep it to yourself. I think I feel it, you admit. She just laughs. Girl, you're tripping, she says. Playfully, not seriously. But now you're not sure what's real anymore. At the 30-minute mark, something strange happens. Your back stops hurting. It's like someone flipped a switch. You're smiling for real now, and your friend, still chill, asks, "You want more?" You don't even think. You bite into the rest of the gummy. She gives you a look, one you can't quite place. Maybe confused, maybe concerned, but it's too late now. You head back to your room telling yourself everything's fine. That's when the real high hits. Your vision starts to blur at the edges. Your body feels heavy, like you're sinking into the floor. You can barely keep your eyes open. You feel like time is folding in on itself. Minutes stretch into hours and collapse into seconds. Everything is fuzzy. You call your boyfriend. You don't know what else to do. You try to speak, but the words are slipping. You can't remember what you're saying, even as the words leave your mouth. Please just keep talking, you beg him. My brain is looping. He laughs. He thinks it's funny, but you're not laughing, because in that moment you realize something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Panic set in slowly, not like a scream, more like a low, rising static in my brain. I sat up in bed, heart thudding against my ribs, and unlocked my door. Just in case. Just in case I needed someone to come find me. Just in case I stopped breathing. My boyfriend was still on the phone, laughing like this was all one big joke. I tried to laugh too, to keep the fear at bay, but it was getting harder. My thoughts were slipping through my fingers. Words looped. My brain kept trying to solve some invisible math equation. Over and over, 20 gummies, 200 milligrams. Wait, was that 20 gummies or 20 serving sizes? Serving size, half a gummy? No. One of those bags had serving sizes listed as half a gummy, and I'd eaten a whole one. Oh God. My mind spiraled faster than I could follow. I was repeating myself, singing some song I couldn't even name. saying things out loud without even knowing why. Every second stretched like rubber, thoughts snapping back like slingshots. I reached for my phone, clumsy fingers stabbing at the screen. I tried to message my friend, no reply. So I walked to her door, leaned against it like I was barely standing, and whispered, "I took too much." She opened the door. Her voice came through the fog. "I told you the gummies were 20 milligrams. Not quite." I stood there swaying, trying not to fall apart. My boyfriend was still on the line, was still laughing. My friend tried to comfort me, but her voice felt distant, like it was coming from the end of a tunnel. All I could do was nod and pretend I was fine. Inside, I felt like I was slipping away. When she finally left my room, I was grateful. Not because I didn't love her, but because I needed silence. Because the sound of her voice felt like thunder in my skull. That's when the real trip began, and I won't get into all of it here. Not yet. But for 2, maybe 3 hours, I was somewhere else entirely. My body was here, curled under blankets in a spinning world I didn't recognize. But my mind was somewhere else. Somewhere darker. Somewhere lighter. Somewhere I still can't fully explain. And I know this will sound strange. Ridiculous even. But I think God reached out to me. I don't mean that in a choir of angels kind of way. I mean that for a moment in the chaos, I felt something. A clarity. Like something inside me cracked open and let the light in, even if it was just for a second. I also think I almost died. It felt like my soul was clawing its way through something heavy and wet and suffocating. I was trapped inside time, stuck in a loop. My thoughts were unraveling and tangling and screaming all at once. I laughed, I cried, I begged, I survived. Now it's been a few hours, I'm still not sober. My ears are still ringing and the edges of everything feel soft and strange. But I'm alive. And when the morning comes, if I forget all of this, just know. Tonight felt like I was being tortured by the universe. And somehow it's still the funniest story I've ever lived through. Tifu. By trying a gummy for the first time, by trusting mine and my friend's math, by taking more before the first one even kicked in, by staying silent when I should have spoken up, and by underestimating just how powerful 20 milligrams really is. Lesson learned. Tifu my relationship and learned that procrastination is the devil, and all I do is self-sabotage. This is the story of how I destroyed the one relationship that actually meant something to me. He was the first person I'd ever been truly close with. Not just physically, but emotionally. From the very beginning, it felt different. We weren't officially together, but we weren't strangers either. For 5 months, we lived in that strange limbo. The talking stage. Fragile. Intense. Confusing. But somewhere in the middle of it all, I found myself really caring about him. Admiring him. Trusting him. He wasn't just intelligent and grounded. He had this quiet strength. This way of making me want to be better just by being around him. And that's what makes this so hard to admit. I was the one who ruined it. Now, with the clarity that only regret can bring, I understand just how much communication matters. Silence, I've learned, can be just as destructive as saying the wrong thing. Back then, though, I was overwhelmed. Completely out of my depth. I'd never felt anything like this before, and instead of leaning into it, I shut down. Every fear, every doubt, I buried it. I was terrified he'd see how unsure I was and walk away. So I pretended I had it all together. I smiled when I felt like crying. I said I was fine when I wasn't. I made it seem like I was all in. Even when my heart was tangled up in knots I didn't know how to explain. I kept telling myself it was just nerves, that I needed a little more time, that this fear of getting too close would fade if I just waited it out. But I never told him that. I never said, "Hey, this is new for me, I'm scared." I just kept pretending. And all the while, he was probably sitting there trying to figure out why I was warm one moment and cold the next. Why it felt like I was holding something back. And the truth is, I was. There were moments, subtle, quiet ones, when he would hint at wanting to take things further. Little comments about commitment, soft questions masked as jokes. I knew what he meant. I could feel the hope in his voice every time he brought it up. And each time, I asked for more time. Not because I didn't care. God, I did. but because I was scared. Scared of change, scared of messing it up, scared of saying yes to something I didn't fully understand yet. And in those moments, I truly believed I needed more time. I wasn't lying, but I was confused. A part of me wanted him to be the one to close the gap between us, to take control, ask me to be his, make that big romantic gesture like in the movies. But another part of me knew I wasn't making it easy for him. I was sending him mixed signals, pulling him in 1 minute, keeping him at arm's length the next. He couldn't read my mind, and I was too afraid to show him what was inside it. And so the guilt started to grow, quietly at first, then louder with every passing day. I hated that I wasn't ready. I hated myself for second-guessing something that felt so rare. Instead of confronting those feelings, I avoided them. I wore a mask of confidence and calm, pretending I was fine, pretending I had it all under control. Meanwhile, I was unraveling on the inside. The shame of it all was like a slow poison. I started wondering if I was the problem, if I was too broken to love someone properly. At one point, I even thought about walking away. I talked to my friends about it, confessed that maybe we weren't right for each other. Maybe it was time to let go. But every time I said those words out loud, I felt a sharp pain in my chest, because deep down, I didn't want to lose him. I just didn't know how to hold on to him either. Then came the conversation that changed everything. We were lying in bed, having one of those late-night talks that used to feel so safe. The topic of commitment came up again, and this time, he didn't ask. He told me. He told me he had already let go in his mind, that he had stopped hoping for something more because I had made him feel like it would never happen, that the signals I was giving him were too confusing, too frustrating, and he was done trying to guess what I wanted. Hearing that shattered me. I hadn't meant to hurt him. I hadn't realized that my silence, my hesitation, was breaking something fragile between us. I'd always thought he should be the one to make the first move, but how could he? When I never made it clear that I was ready, suddenly I saw it all so clearly, and the fear of losing him became real. I panicked. I called him, desperate to fix what I'd broken. I should have said it in person. I know that now. But I didn't realize how much it would hurt him to hear those words over the phone. I told him the truth, that sometimes I felt disconnected, that I didn't always feel okay. But I also told him I wanted to be with him, that I wasn't giving up. And I heard the moment his heart broke. His voice cracked, his tone changed. He told me I'd taken him for granted, that he had loved me fully, and I had made him feel like that love didn't matter. He was right. I hadn't seen it until it was already slipping through my fingers. And the worst part? Even after everything, he still wanted to give me another chance. I didn't understand it. I still don't. After everything I'd put him through, how could he still believe in us? But that call changed us. From that point on, things were different. He started pulling away, not abruptly, but in small, painful ways. His messages got shorter, his voice colder. I could feel him fading, and I didn't know how to stop it. I wanted to talk to him, to pour everything out and finally be honest. But every time I tried, I froze. The words just vanished. My chest would tighten, and instead of explaining myself, I'd cry. It was humiliating. I hated that I couldn't speak, that I was watching him slip away and couldn't do a thing to stop it. We saw each other one final time. It wasn't dramatic or explosive, just quiet. Too quiet. I watched him, searching for that spark, the familiar warmth in his eyes, but it wasn't there anymore. His gaze was heavy, his smile forced. There was a stillness to him that said more than words ever could. It was over, and we both knew it, even if we didn't say it out loud. Later that night, after I got home, my phone lit up with a message. I already felt it in my gut before I even read it. He told me he was falling out of love with me, that he couldn't trust me after what I had said during our phone call, that something had shifted between us and he didn't think it could be fixed. Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. Sharp, sudden, final. But the worst part? I understood. I didn't blame him. I had left him in the dark, questioning everything. I had created distance, then resented him for not closing the gap. I had failed to show up emotionally when it mattered most. And now, the silence I had clung to was the very thing that had broken us. He hasn't reached out since. Neither have I. Not because I don't care, but because I know he needs space. Or maybe he's already closed that chapter for good. Either way, I'm giving him what I couldn't give him before. Clarity. In the middle of all this heartbreak, I finally started therapy. And for the first time in a long time, I started learning things about myself I had been too scared to face. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, avoidant personality disorder. It was sobering, painful, and strangely validating. It made sense, all of it. Why I shut down, why I couldn't speak when it mattered, why I sabotaged something that had the potential to be real and lasting. I realized I had been trying to love someone else while not even knowing how to love myself. I had brought all my unhealed wounds into something that needed care, honesty, and presence. And instead, I gave him confusion, silence, and hesitation. So here's what I've learned. The hard way. If you care about someone, tell them. Don't assume they know. Don't wait for the right time to speak your truth. That time may never come. Speak even when your voice shakes. Love even when you're scared. And most importantly, learn how to love yourself first, so you don't hand someone else the job of fixing what's broken inside you. I'm still on that journey. I'm still trying. Some days I feel strong. Other days I break down all over again. But I'm doing the work. I'm trying to become the person I couldn't be when he needed me most. And while I may never get another chance with him, I owe it to myself not to waste the one I still have, with me. Tifu. By trying to help my mom get a partial refund, it all started with what should have been a simple trip. My mom and I needed to move some pallets of flooring for a home renovation. Nothing unusual, nothing too complicated. We'd actually done this before, a few months back. It was our first time renting a U-Haul, and honestly, it went surprisingly well. The guy working that day, Daniel, was great. He guided us through every step of the rental, even came out to show us how to start the truck and use the emergency brake. My mom, 54 years old and proud as ever, drove that giant moving truck like a pro. She couldn't stop smiling afterward. She told her coworkers about it. Her confidence soared. This time, though, we weren't so lucky. The second rental started like the first. Different day, different employee. His name was Syed. He seemed nice enough at first. We explained that we'd be driving about 18 miles, and since we weren't completely sure, he set it for 20. He also gave us the extended return option, just in case we needed more time. We signed the contract at around 1:30 p.m., finished everything that same day, and dropped the truck off by 7 p.m. But unlike the first time, I had a weird feeling. A little voice in my head that said, "Take photos." So I did. I took clear pictures of the dashboard, mileage, fuel gauge, everything, both before and after the trip. And thank God I did. Because when we checked the final charge later that evening, the total came to $145, nearly double the estimate on our contract. We were stunned. When we called to ask why, they said we were being charged for missing fuel. Fuel? According to them, we returned the truck with less gas than it had when we got it. But here's the thing. We didn't. We picked up the truck with a quarter tank, and we returned it with a quarter tank. The photos I took showed that clearly. But the contract? It claimed we received the truck with 5/8 of a tank. Completely wrong. I couldn't believe it. We did everything right, and we were still being overcharged. So the next day, I drove back to U-Haul with our original paperwork and the photo evidence. I explained everything to the assistant manager, Crystal. She looked through the documents, and at first she seemed willing to help. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. Apparently, we were supposed to receive a text message with a link when we picked up the truck. A link that would let us confirm the mileage and fuel level before leaving the lot. Syed never mentioned anything like that. And as it turned out, that little piece of information would have made all the difference. Crystal said it was too late to change the contract now, but I had the photos. I had proof. And after checking with her manager, she agreed to try and fix the return. That's when things went from frustrating to absolutely infuriating. Crystal went ahead and started redoing the return, typing in all the corrected info based on the photos I showed her. Fuel level, mileage, everything. She even got approval from the actual manager, Noel. For a moment, I thought, okay, maybe this is finally getting resolved. But I should have known better. I stood there watching her go through the process, and eventually the credit card reader lit up with what I thought was my refund, a negative $145. I tapped approve on the machine. She printed a new receipt and said that we were all set. The extra 83 cents she added? She claimed it was just to balance out a minor adjustment after fixing the contract. I thanked her politely. I wanted to take back my original contract, the one we signed, the one that proved we weren't lying. But Crystal told me it had already been thrown away, in the trash, and soaked in coffee. Seriously? I asked her to at least reprint it. She did. The email on file had been wrong the whole time, which explained why we never got the original in our inbox. Fine. She updated it, gave me the copy, and I went home, thinking it was over. It wasn't. As soon as I handed everything to my mom, she noticed something was off. That 83 cents? It didn't subtract from the total we were originally charged. It added to it. And worse, that $63 fuel charge? Still there. According to their system, we had returned the truck with over 14 gallons missing, which was absolutely not true. We had photos, proof, but somehow it was like none of that mattered. So I called them again the next morning, asking to speak to Crystal directly. She remembered me right away, but instead of calmly listening to what I had to say, she started brushing me off. She talked over us, minimized the issue, and told us the refund would probably show up in a few days. We tried to explain, again, that the contract had been wrong from the beginning, that we had only driven 16 miles, not 20, and that we returned the truck with the same amount of fuel it had when we picked it up. But Crystal wasn't having it. At one point, she implied we were just trying to dodge the cost of renting the truck altogether. That's when things got heated. She put us on hold and never came back. Call dropped. Just like that. My mom and I were furious, but we weren't ready to give up. So we got in the car and drove back to the U-Haul office. Again. This time, we spoke to another employee. He told us the manager was already gone. Their shift ended early. Go figure. He offered to call the boss and put him on speaker. I explained everything one more time, laying it all out as clearly and calmly as I could. He promised someone would get back to us within 48 hours. That was days ago. No one ever called. All of this, the phone calls, the trips back and forth, the accusations, the receipts, the photos, just for a $63 refund on a charge that never should have existed in the first place. So yeah, today I messed up. Not by being dishonest, not by doing anything wrong, but by thinking that the system would work, that logic, proof, and a little decency would be enough to fix a simple mistake. Apparently $63 is enough to lose your trust, your time, and your sanity. Tifu by putting blind faith in complete strangers. You guys are in for a double feature because this was a 2-for-1 disaster. It all started about a month ago when I lost my job. The restaurant I worked at made some changes and suddenly I was out. Finding a new job that paid well and didn't crush my soul? Impossible. The only thing I could get was a telemarketing gig, which ironically paid horribly and drained me emotionally. I had no money. I maxed out 2 credit cards and fell behind on bills. At the start of February, I hit a breaking point and started selling my possessions just to survive. I sold what I could: jewelry, my guitar, clothes. That helped a little. But then came the hard part. I listed my camera, shotgun mic, batteries, and camera bag on Facebook Marketplace. I'm a filmmaker and musician, so letting go of my camera and guitar felt like losing pieces of myself. But desperate times, right? Within a few days, someone messaged me on Marketplace. They offered full price, $800 for the camera, plus a few hundred extra to express ship it. I couldn't believe my luck. That would cover rent for the month. They were a little pushy over the phone, grilling me on the condition of the camera, sounding skeptical, changing their mind, and then coming back. I felt like I had to hurry up and seal the deal before they backed out. Then I got an email from Cash App saying the payment was pending. They'd only deposit the money once I showed proof of shipment. Made sense to me? Why would they send the money before I shipped it? So I rushed to FedEx, paid out of pocket to ship it. Money I didn't even have. My account was already negative $156. I had to beg my roommate to spot me the shipping cost. I promised I'd pay them back right away once I got the funds. I really believed I would. I sent the proof of shipment back to Cash App. Almost instantly, I got a new email. The payment still wouldn't be released until the recipient confirmed proof of delivery. That was the moment the floor dropped out. Something didn't feel right. I called the real Cash App. They told me flat out those emails weren't from them. It was a scam. And just like that, the camera was gone. The money was gone. And I owed my roommate $200 I couldn't pay back. I tried not to panic. Maybe this guy was scammed too. Maybe he'd used a fake Cash App and didn't even realize. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and messaged him. He denied everything. But when I asked for proof that he had sent the payment, he went silent. Couldn't show a thing. I knew what that meant. The very next day, I called FedEx and begged them to stop the package. The person on the phone sounded confident. They said they could intercept it and send it back to me. For a moment, I let myself breathe. A week passed. Nothing. I kept calling. But if you've ever dealt with FedEx, you know how impossible that can be. Another week went by before I got through to someone else. Someone who told me there had been no updates, no scans, no movement. It was like my package had disappeared. They promised they'd handle it. What followed was a 3-week nightmare. 18 phone calls, 6 in-person visits, and a mountain of anxiety. But eventually, my camera came back. By then it was the end of the month and I still didn't have enough for rent. Shipping the camera to the scammer had cost $300, which I now owed my roommate. So I relisted the camera, this time for $699, and even paid Facebook to promote the listing. People messaged, offers came in, $400, $500, then silence. Facebook Marketplace might be one of the most exhausting places to exist. You have to chase people just to get a, "Nah, change my mind." But finally, someone responded regularly. He offered $400. Not great, but at this point, I was out of options. He said he was a paranormal investigator, said he needed the camera to document his work, and for a moment, I felt good. As someone who makes films, the thought that the camera would still go toward telling stories, ghosts or not, made me feel like maybe this wasn't a total loss. March 5th, the last possible day I could pay rent. We met halfway, an hour from my place. He was nice, polite. He handed me cash, only $200. "The rest is on the way," he said. "I'll send it on Zelle. I just haven't deposited my checks yet." "I get it," I said. "I'm in the same boat. Just if you could send it by midnight, I'd really appreciate it." He smiled. "Of course." That night, I got paid by my telemarketing job. Combined with the $200, I had just enough for rent. I messaged him again, reminding him about the remaining payment. No reply. Again, no reply. And slowly the truth crept in. I'd been scammed. Again. I should have learned my lesson the first time. But I wanted to believe this guy was real. That his ghost hunting story meant something. That the camera was going to do something meaningful. Instead, I sat alone in my room. Broke, humiliated, and exhausted. Yeah, I paid rent. But I didn't pay my gas bill, or my electric, or my phone, subscriptions, credit card, loans, or Wi-Fi. I still owe my roommate $300. Maybe one day my music or my movies will pay off. Or maybe this camera will be the thing that finally breaks me. Tifu my relationship and learnt that procrastination is the devil, and all I do is self-sabotage. He was the first guy I had ever been intimate with. And for someone like me, someone who had never really let people in before, that meant a lot. We weren't official, but we'd been talking for 5 months, and that time with him felt different. Real. He was smart, grounded, kind, and strong in a way that made you want to be better just by being around him. I looked up to him more than he probably ever realized, but I messed everything up. This is your sign, if you're reading this, to communicate. Even when it's scary. Even when your thoughts feel like a tangled mess. Keeping quiet only makes things worse. I learned that the hard way. From the very beginning, I felt overwhelmed. The way I felt around him, it was new, intense, and honestly kind of terrifying. But I didn't tell him that. When I had doubts or fears, I kept them to myself. I smiled. I acted like everything was fine. He had no idea that I was panicking inside. Looking back, I realized I was just scared. I didn't know how to handle something that felt so real. I thought maybe it was just a phase that I needed more time, but I never said that. And as the weeks went on, I just kept playing the part of someone who had it all figured out. I didn't. And the worst part? I was sending mixed signals without even knowing it. He hinted a few times that he wanted us to be exclusive, but I always told him I needed more time. I think I meant it in the moment, but deep down, I was just scared to open up. Scared to say, I want this. I want you. And yeah, I had this dumb belief that he was supposed to ask me out. But how could he, when I hadn't made it clear how I felt? Eventually, it caught up to us. One night, we were just lying in bed talking, and the topic came up again. About commitment, about where this was going. And that's when he said it. He told me he had already mentally moved on. He couldn't keep trying when he didn't know what I wanted. He felt like I was hot and cold, and he didn't want to keep guessing. That moment broke something in me, because that's when I realized just how much I wanted to be with him, just how much he meant to me. But by then, I was afraid it was already too late. A few days after that conversation in bed, I called him. I told him everything I had been holding in, how there were moments where I didn't feel connected to him, how sometimes I felt uneasy and didn't understand why, but I also told him that I still wanted to be with him. I wanted to try. I wanted to make it work. I wish I'd said those things in person. I didn't realize how much it would hurt him to hear those words over the phone. I could feel his heart breaking on the other end, and I knew I was the one doing it. He told me he felt like I had taken him for granted, and he was right. I had. Not out of cruelty, but out of fear, out of confusion, out of not understanding my own emotions and not being brave enough to speak them out loud. I didn't recognize what I had, not until it was already slipping away. And I hate myself for that. But even after all that, he still wanted to give me a second chance. I don't know why. After that call, something changed. It was like a wall had gone up between us. We kept talking, but I could feel him pulling further and further away. Every conversation felt colder, shorter, and I couldn't find the words to fix it. Every time I tried to explain how I felt, I froze. The words got stuck in my throat, and all I could do was cry. I hated myself for that too. We saw each other one last time, and I'll never forget the way he looked at me. The softness in his eyes was gone. There was this quiet finality in his expression that said everything he didn't. Later that night, he sent me a message. He told me he was falling out of love with me, that after everything I said on the phone, he couldn't trust me anymore. That message crushed me, but I deserved it. My behavior was unacceptable, and the worst part? I think he's done for good. He hasn't messaged me since. I haven't messaged him either. Maybe he just needs time and space. Or maybe he's already gone. During all this, I finally started going to therapy. Turns out there's a reason I've been this way for so long. I was officially diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and avoidant personality disorder. It was hard to hear, but it also made everything make sense. I'd let my mind become the enemy. I'd let my thoughts convince me I wasn't enough, that I was too much, that I'd mess everything up. And then I did mess everything up. I sabotaged something beautiful, and now I have to live with that. So here's what I'll say to anyone who's listening. Learn to love yourself before you try to love someone else. I know it's hard. I know it's terrifying. But self-awareness, self-compassion, and honest communication, they matter more than you think. Stop putting off the hard conversations. Stop hiding your feelings just because they make you uncomfortable. If you don't face them, they'll cost you the people who care. This relationship forced me to look at myself. Really look. And I didn't like what I saw. I'm trying now. I really am. But it's a long road back from losing someone like him.